Can speak to Eylon Levy, an Israeli government spokesperson in Tel Aviv. Thank you very much for coming on the programme.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on.
We've just seen the live pictures there. Could you talk us through, if you can, why now this escalation?
On October 7th, Hamas declared war against Israel. It's a war that began with the horrific massacre that murdered 1,400 people, injured 5,000, took 230 people hostage, has continued with 8,000 rockets on our cities. I've had to run to a bomb shelter twice today. And it's a war that Israel is determined to win, and determined to win by totally defeating the Hamas regime inside the Gaza Strip, just as the international community closed ranks against ISIS. We've been very clear. We can no longer live with a terror enclave on our borders controlled by a jihadist organization sworn to a second genocide of the Jews, a jihadist organization that on October 7th burned, butchered, raped, tortured, mutilated its way through southern Israel. And so Hamas started this war. It's not a war that Israel wanted. It's not a war that we started. It's not a war that we expected. But it's a war that Israel is now determined to win. And we're determined to win by totally wiping out Hamas.
Wars have rules. The international community has been clear, loud and clear about that. Some of Israel's strongest allies have been clear on that. With this expansion of ground forces and airstrikes, do you know how you can wipe out Hamas and protect civilians at the same time?
Israel takes its obligations towards international law and the laws of war very seriously. That's why we're doing everything we can to minimize civilian casualties in Gaza, despite Hamas's best efforts to maximize them. For example, you correctly noted, Israel is urging civilians in the Gaza Strip to move south temporarily for their own safety. The reason is that Hamas has embedded itself deep within civilian areas, building that network of tunnels in the Gaza Strip under homes, under schools, under hospitals. Just today, the IDF released intelligence showing that Hamas's command bunker is situated underneath the Shifa hospital in the Gaza Strip, which is, of course, a war crime to use civilians as human shields in that way. So Israel is doing its best to get civilians out of harm's way. This is a war that Hamas waged on us, and we're fighting back against Hamas, not against Gaza, not against the Palestinians, against Hamas. We're urging civilians to get out of the way, and we're continuing with our operations to target Hamas within the Gaza Strip, because we will not go back to 6 in the morning on October 7th. We will not go back to a world in which a jihadi regime on our borders can invade at will and burn whole families in their homes. That will not happen, and that's why this war will end with the defeat of Hamas.
And is this tonight the start of this major ground incursion that's been previewed for a couple of weeks now?
Israel has expanded ground operations in the Gaza Strip, but beyond that, I'm not going to comment on operational matters.
Do you have a timescale on this?
I'm not going to speculate on operational matters, but Israel is going to continue with its defensive efforts to destroy Hamas in response to the October 7th massacre and the continued barrage of rockets, the indiscriminate fire of rockets against our cities and civilians.
Just 10 aid trucks got in to Gaza today. Is that enough?
We want to see humanitarian aid reach the people of the Gaza Strip through the Rafah border crossing with Egypt. The crossings with Israel were, of course, destroyed in the October 7th massacre when Hamas fired rockets that took out the power lines that were providing electricity from Gaza, entered the Erez crossing and butchered everyone there. So the prospect of aid entering through the crossings that Hamas destroyed on October 7th is not viable. We want to see it enter through Egypt. We only have one condition: that the aid not reach Hamas, that Hamas not exploit those humanitarian corridors in order to rearm. And that is our right, in fact, our duty under the international laws of war, to facilitate humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza, as long as that is not exploited by the enemy that declared war on us on October 7th and continues to indiscriminately attack our people with barrages of rockets.
Okay, Mr. Levy, thank you very much for coming on the programme. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anytime.
Just as we were talking there were more flashes just here.